In this video, we want to take a deeper dive into how Shi Yu Qi of China was able to clinch out the match against the home crowd favorite, Christo Popov. We will focus on how Shi Yu Qi adapted his gameplay in response to common shot patterns played by Christo, as well as how Christo made the game extremely close.
That's short though.
In almost all of his matches, Shi Yu Qi would lose the first set, but end up winning the match in the end. The reason he is ultimately able to win the matches in the end is because of his ability to read his opponents and hence make subtle changes that will allow him to gain the edge in rallies. If we take this game, for example, Shi Yu Qi, the player in red, noticed a common pattern in Christo's game. The player in white, specifically after Christo half-smashed from his around the head side. After Christo would hit this shot, Shi Yu Qi would take the extra effort block middle to Christo's left side of his body, outlined here on the screen. Even though the straight block would be the easiest shot to execute in this situation, Shi Yu Qi would block middle. But why? Because this block to the middle would force Christo to take his forehand. From this position, there aren't many shot options that Christo has, and he would almost always play the straight net. Shi Yu Qi would anticipate this and move preemptively in anticipation of this shot. And he knew this under the premise of two reasons. First and foremost, winning the net is the key to winning the rally. When you control the net, you are in control of the rally, especially in men's singles. Knowing this, Shi Yu Qi can make a guess as to where Christo will play his shot. So by figuring out his opponent's game plan and his opponent's mentality, Shi Yu Qi can make the assumption as to what shot Christo is going to play. In this case, it'll be the net, as these players really don't want to give away the lift, especially toward the later stages of a game.
That's short though.
The second consideration is the angle and momentum Christo has when he comes into play this shot. First, let's talk about momentum. After playing a half smash, it's in your best interest to try to take the net as early as possible to change the pace. This is how you get the opportunity to attack. So, after Christo hits his half smash, his momentum is moving forward. If he chooses to push, it's extremely easy to push it out the back, especially with drifty conditions, and thus, the net is often safer. Second, the angle. How did Shi Yu Qi know that Christo would net straight instead of hitting to the other side of the court? This is simply because of the angle that Christo is coming to take the shot. The angle that Christo is coming from makes it extremely difficult for him to play to the other side of the court that she has left open. To play it cross to this position on the screen, Christo would have to adjust his racket and open his racket face to push to that corner. This requires extra skill and thinking that players often aren't necessarily thinking about in the heat of the moment. So, when Shi Yu Qi blocks to the middle, after Christo plays an around the head half smash straight, he does this to force Christo into using his forehand grip, which consequently forces him to play this side of Shi Yu Qi's court. From here, Shi Yu Qi can cover the most dangerous shot, the spin net from Christo, which is often why he moves up before Christo has even contacted the shuttle. If Christo does choose to lift, he lifts to Shi Yu Qi's around the head, arguably his best side for attack. Another example of Shi Yu Qi reading Christo's habits is on Christo's backhand side of the net. A common shot that many players, not just Christo, tend to play is the cross push from this position. And these rallies are excellent examples of how Shi Yu Qi was anticipating the cross push. Shi Yu Qi is someone who has plenty of experience and knowledge, and these adaptations ultimately allowed him to win. Of course, that doesn't make Shi Yu Qi the perfect player, though. So let's take a look at what made this game so close. When we watched the rallies between these two players, most of the time it was Shi Yu Qi who was controlling the pace of the game. He would control the rally so well, only to make an unforced error at the end. For example, take a look at this rally where Shi Yu Qi controlled very well.
That's a nice angle.
In a tournament as big as the World Championships, it's inevitable that a few unforced errors would be made due to the pressure. And ultimately, many matches are won by those who are more consistent and can handle the pressure. And that's exactly what Christo was very good at. Christo was very good at staying in the rallies, making it very difficult for Shi Yu Qi to score. The more shots that Christo returns, the more impatient she becomes. Thus, the more errors she makes. However, how can us, the audience, learn from these unforced errors? The first thing to learn from this match is Christo's tenacity. What we mean by this is being able to make the points difficult for your opponent to earn, not because you are controlling them, but because you are simply getting everything back. When playing players that are similar to your skill level, it isn't possible to always control every single rally and every single shot. There will definitely be times when they get the edge and start controlling you. But it's in these rallies where you have to continue retrieving and focusing on getting the shuttle over the net.
Did he get that back? And that. And he's missed it. He's put it.
The second lesson to learn is where you're placing your shots. Especially in a drifty hall, where there is often sideways drift, trying to aim for the lines is extremely risky. That's why many pro players will simply hit their shot towards the middle, or aim a little further from the line, because when they try to pin the lines, this is often what happens. That is also why, in this game, the pace was extremely fast, because both players were fighting for control of the net and playing flat exchanges to minimize errors. So, if you ever find yourself playing in a different venue, one tip would be to play safer and less risky shots, to try to get a feeling for the court conditions first, before trying to play more towards the lines. And as you play your matches, staying cool-headed and paying attention to your opponent's common tendencies can help you gain control of rallies more often and increase your chances of winning. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, as it helps out the channel a lot. And as always, thanks for watching.